Life has a way of teaching us valuable lessons if we're paying attention. One of those lessons is recognizing who truly values you and who doesn't. It's not always easy to spot because our hearts often want to see the best in others. But certain behaviors reveal their true intentions, patterns that are hard to ignore once you notice them. Today, let's talk about 8 traits of people who don't genuinely value you. First, these individuals tend to take far more than they give. You might find yourself constantly going out of your way for them, yet when it's their turn to reciprocate, they're nowhere to be found. They'll exhaust your energy, your time, and your patience without ever considering what they can contribute in return. It's as though you're carrying the weight of the relationship all by yourself. Their words also speak volumes. When someone doesn't value you, they won't hesitate to criticize or belittle you. Instead of uplifting you, they use negativity to make themselves feel superior. This isn't encouragement, it's manipulation disguised as casual remarks or outright insults. Reliability is another area where they fall short. Promises come easily to them, but keeping those promises, not so much. "I'll get back to you" or "let's catch up soon" are phrases they toss around freely, but actions rarely follow. You're left waiting, wondering why they never seem to follow through. The truth is, they simply don't prioritize you enough to keep their word. Respect is missing from the equation, too. These individuals treat your time as if it's expendable. They show up late, cancel plans at the last minute, or disregard boundaries you've clearly set. To them, your schedule, your needs, and your feelings aren't worth respect. After all, respect is foundational to any meaningful connection, and its absence says everything. When it comes to your dreams, they're quick to dismiss them. Sharing something you're passionate about should bring encouragement, but instead they shrug it off or worse, mock it. Their lack of support stems from their inability to see your potential. Someone who truly cares would celebrate your ambitions, no matter how big or small. Another glaring sign is how they only reach out when they need something. Days, weeks, or even months may pass without hearing a word from them. Then suddenly they appear with a request. It's clear you're seen as a resource, not a person. Being treated like a tool rather than a human being leaves you feeling undervalued, and rightfully so. Conflict exposes their true colors as well. Rather than taking responsibility for their actions, they shift blame onto others, including you. They twist situations to fit their narrative, leaving you feeling guilty for issues you didn't cause. Navigating disagreements with them feels less like resolving tension and more like dodging emotional landmines. Finally, apologies are rare, if they happen at all. A sincere apology demonstrates humility and a desire to mend relationships. However, people who don't value you rarely bother. They prefer to sweep problems under the rug or act as though nothing happened. Why? Because the bond wasn't meaningful enough to warrant effort in the first place. These 8 traits paint a clear picture of individuals who don't genuinely value you. The question remains, what will you do with this insight? Will you continue investing in relationships that leave you drained, or will you set boundaries and surround yourself with people who appreciate and respect you? Remember, you deserve connections that inspire growth, not ones that hold you back. Choose wisely. When you think about relationships, whether they're friendships, partnerships, or even professional connections, there's an unspoken expectation, mutual care, and effort. But when someone doesn't value you, that balance tips dramatically in their favor. They become takers, leaving you stuck in a cycle of giving without receiving anything meaningful in return. This dynamic isn't just frustrating, it's exhausting. Over time, it chips away at your confidence and leaves you questioning your worth. Let's talk about how these people handle emotions. Have you ever noticed that they seem uncomfortable when you express vulnerability? Instead of offering support or empathy, they change the subject, dismiss your feelings, or worse, laugh them off. To them, your emotions are inconvenient because they require energy and understanding, things they aren't willing to invest. They might even accuse you of being too sensitive or overreacting. What they're really saying is, your feelings don't matter to me, and if your feelings don't matter, then neither do you. Another red flag is how they treat your achievement. When someone genuinely values you, they cheer for your successes, no matter how small. But those who don't value you often downplay your accomplishments or act indifferent. Maybe you aced a project at work, finished a personal goal, or achieved something you've been striving toward for months. Instead of celebrating with you, they brush it aside or redirect the conversation to themselves. Their lack of enthusiasm isn't accidental, it's a reflection of how little they care about what matters to you. Now let's shift gears and talk about loyalty, or the absence of it. Loyalty is one of the cornerstones of any strong relationship. It means standing by someone through thick and thin, offering unwavering support during both triumphs and challenges. But people who don't value you won't hesitate to abandon ship when things get tough. If you make a mistake or face difficulties, they'll distance themselves quickly. Worse, they might spread rumors or gossip about you instead of offering help. True loyalty builds trust, its absence creates instability. Communication plays a huge role here too. Think about how these individuals interact with you. Are they present during conversations, or do they constantly interrupt, check their phone, or zone out entirely? Do they listen to understand, or do they listen only to respond? People who don't value you rarely engage deeply in discussions with you. They skim the surface, avoiding emotional topics or anything that requires genuine thought. Conversations feel transactional rather than relational, leaving you wondering if they truly hear a word you say. And speaking of communication, let's address tone. Pay attention to how they speak to you versus how they speak to others. Is their tone dismissive, condescending, or overly critical? Do they use sarcasm as a weapon instead of humor? Tone reveals intent, and when someone doesn't value you, their tone often reflects disdain or indifference. It's subtle but powerful, a constant reminder that they don't see you as an equal or someone deserving of kindness. Another trait worth exploring is comparison. People who don't value you often compare you unfavorably to others, whether it's pointing out how much better someone else performs at work, how much more successful another friend is, or how much easier life seems for someone else. Comparisons are their go-to tactic. These remarks sting because they're designed to undermine your self-esteem. Someone who values you would never resort to such tactics. They'd lift you up instead of tearing you down. What about accountability? Accountability is a hallmark of healthy relationships. It shows maturity, responsibility, and respect for others. But people who don't value you avoid accountability like the plague. When confronted with their behavior, they deflect, deny, or double down on their actions. They refuse to admit fault, even when the evidence is undeniable. This refusal stems from their inability to see themselves as flawed and their unwillingness to put in the work to improve. Relationships thrive on honesty and growth, but these individuals stifle both. Boundaries are another area where they falter. Healthy relationships require clear boundaries, limits that protect your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Yet people who don't value you consistently push those boundaries. They overstep, ignore, or outright violate them without remorse. For example, they might show up unannounced, borrow items without asking, or pry into private matters. Each violation feels like a breach of trust, eroding the foundation of the relationship bit by bit. Boundaries exist to safeguard respect, and when they're ignored, it sends a clear message: your needs don't matter. Now consider how they handle gratitude or the lack thereof. Gratitude is a simple yet profound way to acknowledge someone's presence in your life. When someone values you, they express appreciation regularly, whether it's thanking you for a kind gesture, acknowledging your contributions, or simply letting you know they're glad to have you around. On the flip side, people who don't value you rarely show gratitude. They take your efforts for granted, assuming you'll always be there to pick up the slack. The absence of gratitude speaks volumes about how they view your role in their life, replaceable and insignificant. Their priorities also tell a story. Take a moment to reflect on where you rank in their lives. Are you among their top priorities, or do you consistently fall to the bottom of the list? People who don't value you will place countless other things ahead of you: work, hobbies, social events, even strangers. You might find yourself waiting endlessly for scraps of their attention, only to realize you're not important enough to warrant their focus. Prioritization reveals intention, and when someone consistently places you last, it's a sign they don't value you. Jealousy is another emotion that surfaces in these dynamics. While jealousy itself isn't inherently bad, it can stem from insecurity or fear. The way it manifests matters. People who don't value you may exhibit jealousy in harmful ways, such as resenting your success, sabotaging your progress, or attempting to control your choices. Their jealousy isn't rooted in love or admiration, it's fueled by envy and competition. Rather than wanting the best for you, they want to keep you within arm's reach so they can maintain a sense of superiority. Now let's delve into consistency, or the lack of it. Consistency is key to building trust and reliability in relationships. When someone values you, their actions align with their words. They show up, follow through, and remain dependable over time. In contrast, people who don't value you are inconsistent. One day they might shower you with attention, the next they're distant and disengaged. This inconsistency leaves you walking on eggshells, unsure of where you stand. Trust crumbles under the weight of unpredictability. Empathy is another crucial factor. Empathy allows us to connect with others on a deeper level, fostering understanding and compassion. People who value you practice empathy naturally, seeking to understand your perspective and validate your experiences. Those who don't value you struggle with empathy or lack it entirely. They struggle to relate to your struggles, dismissing your pain as irrelevant or exaggerated. Without empathy, relationships lose their warmth and humanity, becoming cold and transactional. Let's also examine how they handle criticism. Constructive criticism, delivered with care and respect, can strengthen relationships by promoting growth and improvement. However, people who don't value you wield criticism like a weapon. Their feedback is harsh, unsolicited, and often unrelated to the situation at hand. They criticize not to help you grow, but to assert dominance or superiority. Every comment feels like a jab, chipping away at your confidence and self-worth. Another telling sign is how they react to your independence. Independence is empowering. It signifies strength, resilience, and self-sufficiency. People who value you celebrate your ability to stand on your own 2 feet. Conversely, those who don't value you may feel threatened by your autonomy. They might belittle your decisions, question your judgment, or try to micromanage your life. Their discomfort stems from a desire to control you, ensuring you remain dependent on them rather than embracing your freedom. Time management is another area worth exploring. Time is one of our most precious resources, and how someone spends it reveals their priority. People who value you carve out time for you, making sure you feel seen and heard. In contrast, those who don't value you treat your time as expendable. They arrive late, leave early, or cancel plans frequently, showing blatant disregard for your schedule. Their actions send a clear message: your time isn't valuable enough to respect. Let's discuss how they handle conflict resolution, or the absence of it. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship, but how it's handled determines the health of the connection. People who value you approach conflict with openness and a willingness to resolve issues. They seek compromise, listen actively, and prioritize finding solutions. On the other hand, those who don't value you avoid conflict resolution altogether. They either sweep problems under the rug or escalate disagreements unnecessarily, refusing to engage in productive dialogue. Unresolved conflicts fester, poisoning the relationship over time. Generosity is another quality to observe. Generosity extends beyond material gifts. It encompasses acts of kindness, thoughtfulness, and emotional support. People who value you demonstrate generosity freely, offering encouragement, assistance, and affection without expecting anything in return. Those who don't value you are stingy with their generosity. They withhold praise, resist helping unless it benefits them, and rarely extend warmth or affection. Their reluctance to give reflects their lack of investment in the relationship. Finally, let's touch on authenticity. Authenticity fosters trust and intimacy in relationships. People who value you are genuine, sharing their true selves without pretense or ulterior motives. In contrast, those who don't value you wear masks, presenting versions of themselves tailored to manipulate or deceive. Their insincerity creates distance, preventing real connection from forming. Authenticity builds bridges, its absence erects walls. Let's delve deeper into how these individuals approach commitment or their lack of it. Commitment is the glue that holds relationships together. It signifies dedication, loyalty, and a willingness to invest in someone over the long term. People who value you embrace commitment wholeheartedly. They show up consistently, not just when it's convenient or beneficial for them. On the other hand, those who don't value you shy away from any form of lasting obligation. They keep things vague, avoiding labels, promises, or plans that require sustained effort. This reluctance stems from their fear of being tied down, not because they're busy or independent, but because they simply don't see you as worth the investment. Now think about how they handle vulnerability. Vulnerability is a cornerstone of intimacy. When someone values you, they create a safe space where you can share your fears, hopes, and insecurities without judgment. Sharing your inner world strengthens the bond between you. But people who don't value you, they either shut down your attempts at vulnerability or exploit it for their gain. They might laugh off your concerns, mock your emotions, or use your openness against you later. Their dismissive attitude makes you feel exposed rather than understood, reinforcing the idea that your feelings aren't important to them. Another area to consider is encouragement. Encouragement fuels growth. It motivates us to pursue our dreams, overcome obstacles, and believe in ourselves. People who genuinely care about you are your biggest cheerleaders. They celebrate your wins, offer guidance during setbacks, and remind you of your potential when self-doubt creeps in. In contrast, those who don't value you rarely encourage you. At best, they remain indifferent. At worst, they actively discourage you. They might tell you that your goals are unrealistic, criticize your efforts, or imply that you're not capable of succeeding. Their negativity isn't constructive. It's designed to diminish your confidence and keep you stuck. Next, let's talk about trust. Trust is the foundation of every healthy relationship. Without it, connections crumble under the weight of suspicion and insecurity. People who value you earn your trust by being honest, transparent, and reliable. They follow through on their promises, respect your privacy, and communicate openly. Those who don't value you betray trust repeatedly. They lie, omit crucial details, or break confidences without remorse. Each betrayal chips away at the relationship until there's nothing left to salvage. Trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy, and those who don't value you don't hesitate to light the match. What about shared joy? Shared joy amplifies happiness. It turns moments of triumph into memories that last a lifetime. When someone values you, they revel in your successes alongside you. They take pride in your achievements, knowing that your win is also theirs. But people who don't value you struggle with shared joy. They might downplay your accomplishments, shift the focus back to themselves, or even feel envious of your success. Instead of celebrating with you, they dampen the moment, leaving you feeling like your victories don't truly matter. Consider how they respond to your needs. Everyone has needs, emotional, physical, and mental, and fulfilling those needs is part of what makes relationships meaningful. People who value you pay attention to your needs and strive to meet them, whether it's offering a listening ear, lending a helping hand, or simply being present. Those who don't value you ignore your needs entirely. They might claim they're too busy, too tired, or too preoccupied to help, brushing off your requests as inconveniences. Over time, this neglect leaves you feeling unseen and unsupported. Let's explore their sense of fairness. Fairness ensures balance in relationships. It prevents one person from shouldering all the responsibility while the other reaps the rewards. People who value you practice fairness instinctively. They split responsibility evenly, compromise during disagreements, and ensure that both parties benefit equally from the relationship. Those who don't value you tip the scales heavily in their favor. They expect you to do the heavy lifting, emotionally, financially, or otherwise, while contributing little in return. This imbalance creates resentment, making you question why you're putting in so much effort for someone who doesn't reciprocate. How do they treat your boundaries? Boundaries define the limits of acceptable behavior in relationships. They protect your well-being and establish mutual respect. People who value you respect your boundaries without question. They honor your no, understand your limits, and refrain from pressuring you into uncomfortable situations. Those who don't value you disregard your boundaries entirely. They push past your limits, guilt trip you into compliance, or outright ignore your requests. Every boundary violation feels like a betrayal, reminding you that your needs aren't a priority to them. Now let's examine how they handle accountability or their refusal to take responsibility. Accountability is essential for personal growth and relationship health. It means owning up to mistakes, apologizing sincerely, and working to make amends. People who value you hold themselves accountable naturally. They acknowledge their errors, express genuine remorse, and take steps to prevent future issues. Those who don't value you deflect blame onto others, deny wrongdoing, or justify their actions regardless of the consequences. Their inability to accept responsibility erodes trust and creates a toxic dynamic where you're constantly forced to defend yourself. What about emotional availability? Emotional availability means being present, attentive, and responsive in relationships. It involves active listening, validating feelings, and providing support during tough times. People who value you are emotionally available. They engage fully in conversations, offer comfort when needed, and prioritize your well-being. Those who don't value you are emotionally absent. They tune out during discussions, dismiss your feelings, and avoid addressing emotional topics altogether. Their detachment leaves you craving connection and wondering if they truly care. Let's also discuss how they view your growth. Growth is an integral part of life. It encompasses learning new skills, overcoming challenges, and evolving into a better version of yourself. People who value you champion your growth. They encourage you to step outside your comfort zone, celebrate your progress, and stand by you during moments of uncertainty. Those who don't value you hinder your growth. They sabotage your efforts, belittle your ambitions, and resist change within the relationship. Their resistance stems from a desire to maintain control, ensuring you never outgrow their influence. How do they handle disagreements? Disagreements are inevitable in any relationship, but how they're managed determines the outcome. People who value you approach disagreements with empathy and understanding. They listen to your perspective, validate your feelings, and work collaboratively to find solutions. Those who don't value you escalate disagreements unnecessarily. They raise their voices, resort to personal attacks, or storm off mid-conversation. These destructive behaviors create tension and prevent resolution, leaving you drained and frustrated. Finally, let's reflect on how they treat your time. Time is irreplaceable, a finite resource that once spent cannot be recovered. People who value you treasure your time as much as you do. They arrive punctually, stay engaged during interactions, and respect your schedule. Those who don't value you waste your time recklessly. They show up late, cancel plans frequently, or monopolize hours without considering your priorities. Their disregard for your time sends a clear message: your presence isn't valuable enough to honor. Let's talk about how these individuals approach forgiveness or their inability to extend it. Forgiveness is a powerful act that heals wounds and restores relationships. When someone values you, they forgive your mistakes because they understand that imperfection is part of being human. They don't hold grudges or bring up past errors to use against you. Instead, they focus on moving forward together. On the other hand, those who don't value you weaponize forgiveness. They drag old issues into current conversations, reminding you of every misstep you've ever made. Their refusal to let go keeps you trapped in a cycle of guilt, making it impossible to fully repair the relationship. Now consider how they treat your independence. Independence is empowering. It allows you to make decisions, pursue goals, and live authentically. People who value you celebrate your autonomy. They respect your choices, even if they don't always agree with them, and trust your ability to navigate life. Those who don't value you resent your independence. They criticize your decisions, question your judgment, and try to micromanage your life. Their controlling behavior stems from insecurity. They fear losing influence over you, so they attempt to tether you to their side. What about shared experiences? Shared experiences are the building blocks of memories. They create moments that strengthen bonds and deepen connection. People who value you actively seek out opportunities to share experiences with you. Whether it's traveling, attending events, or simply spending quality time together, they prioritize creating lasting memories. Those who don't value you rarely participate in shared experience. They decline invitations, cancel plans, or show little enthusiasm when you suggest doing something together. Their disinterest leaves you wondering if they truly enjoy your company or if they're just going through the motions. How do they handle compromise? Compromise is essential for resolving conflicts and maintaining harmony in relationships. It requires both parties to meet in the middle, sacrificing certain desires for the greater good of the connection. People who value you embrace compromise willingly. They listen to your needs, express their own, and work collaboratively to find solutions that satisfy everyone involved. Those who don't value you resist compromise at every turn. They dig their heels in, refusing to budge unless it benefits them directly. Their stubbornness creates tension and prevents resolution, leaving you feeling unheard and unappreciated. Let's also examine how they view your happiness. Your happiness matters deeply to those who genuinely care about you. They take joy in seeing you smile, feel fulfilled, and thrive in life. They support your passions, encourage your dreams, and celebrate your achievements. Those who don't value you are indifferent or even hostile to your happiness. They might sabotage your efforts, downplay your successes, or express envy when things go well for you. Their negativity isn't accidental, it's rooted in jealousy and insecurity. Rather than rejoicing in your joy, they attempt to dim your light to elevate themselves. Another important factor is how they handle stress. Stress affects everyone differently, and how someone manages it reveals a lot about their character. People who value you lean on you during tough times, trusting you to provide support and understanding. They communicate openly about their struggles and welcome your assistance. Those who don't value you dump their stress onto you without considering your capacity to carry it. They vent endlessly, demand constant attention, and fail to reciprocate when you're struggling. Their one-sided approach leaves you emotionally drained and overwhelmed. Think about how they treat your personal growth journey. Personal growth involves self-reflection, learning, and transformation. It's a process that requires patience, effort, and encouragement. People who value you walk alongside you on this journey. They offer guidance, celebrate milestones, and remind you of your potential when self-doubt creeps in. Those who don't value you dismiss your growth. They mock your efforts, belittle your progress, or imply that you're wasting your time. Their lack of support hinders your development, making you question whether pursuing growth is worth the effort. Now let's discuss how they handle affection. Affection is a cornerstone of meaningful relationships. It conveys love, appreciation, and care. People who value you express affection freely. They offer hugs, kind words, thoughtful gestures, and reassurance when you need it most. Those who don't value you withhold affection as a form of control. They give sparingly only when it suits their agenda and withdraw completely when they're upset. Their inconsistency leaves you craving connection and questioning whether their feelings for you are genuine. What about reliability? Reliability builds trust. It ensures that you can count on someone when it matters most. People who value you are dependable. They follow through on promises, show up when needed, and keep their word consistently. Those who don't value you are unreliable. They make commitments lightly, break them frequently, and leave you scrambling to pick up the pieces. Their unpredictability creates anxiety, making it difficult to rely on them in critical moments. Let's also explore how they respond to your boundaries. Boundaries protect your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. They define what you will and won't tolerate in a relationship. People who value you respect your boundaries without question. They honor your no, avoid pressuring you, and adjust their behavior accordingly. Those who don't value you disregard your boundaries entirely. They push past your limits, guilt-trip you into compliance, or outright ignore your requests. Each violation feels like a betrayal, reinforcing the idea that your needs aren't important to them. How do they approach gratitude? Gratitude is a simple yet profound way to acknowledge someone's presence in your life. People who value you express gratitude regularly. They thank you for your kindness, recognize your contributions, and let you know they appreciate having you around. Those who don't value you rarely show gratitude. They take your efforts for granted, assuming you'll always be there to pick up the slack. Their lack of appreciation makes you feel invisible and undervalued. Consider how they handle accountability within themselves. Accountability fosters trust. It demonstrates maturity, responsibility, and respect for others. People who value you hold themselves accountable naturally. They admit their mistakes, apologize sincerely, and take steps to prevent future issues. Those who don't value you deflect blame onto others, deny wrongdoing, or justify their actions regardless of the consequences. Their inability to accept responsibility erodes trust and creates a toxic dynamic where you're constantly defending yourself. Finally, let's reflect on how they treat your dreams. Dreams fuel ambition, they inspire us to strive for greatness and envision a better future. People who value you champion your dreams. They believe in your potential, encourage your efforts, and stand by you during moments of doubt. Those who don't value you hinder your dreams. They sabotage your progress, belittle your ambitions, and resist change within the relationship. Their resistance stems from a desire to maintain control, ensuring you never outgrow their influence. At the end of the day, relationships are about mutual care, respect, and effort. They're meant to uplift us, inspire growth, and provide a sense of belonging. But when someone doesn't value you, those ideals crumble under the weight of imbalance and neglect. You deserve more than empty promises, one-sided sacrifices, or constant criticism. You deserve people in your life who see your worth, celebrate your victories, and stand by you during challenges. Recognizing these traits isn't about fostering resentment. It's about empowering yourself to make better choices. It's about learning to identify patterns that harm you so you can create space for connections that heal and nurture. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. Surrounding yourself with people who genuinely appreciate you isn't prideful, it's wise. Remember, you teach others how to treat you by what you accept and what you allow. If someone refuses to value you despite your efforts, don't internalize their behavior. It's not a reflection of your worth, but rather their inability to give what they lack themselves. True relationships thrive on reciprocity, trust, and authenticity. Anything less is simply settling, and you deserve far more than that. So take a step back and evaluate the people around you. Who lifts you up, who listens without judgment, who shows up consistently and makes you feel valued. Invest your time and energy in those individuals, the ones who remind you why connection matters in the first place. And as for those who don't value you, let them go. Life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary, and extraordinary begins with choosing yourself. Choose wisely, because every relationship you nurture shapes the person you become, and above all else, never forget, you are worthy of love, respect, and genuine care, not just from others, but most importantly, from yourself.